Hello, good morning, good afternoon. This is Sheila Aula coming to you live from Los Angeles from the headquarters of Residency Medical. Thank you so much for joining our live webinar, Match versus Post-Match, Where Do I Fit? Again, my name is Sheila Aula. I'm the Vice President of Education and Placement here at Residency Medical. It is a pleasure to be here live with all of you and to have an opportunity to discuss this very interesting topic that we will be doing today. I would like to take some time to introduce our distinct guests. First, we have Dr. Gurtej Dhaliwal, who is the Senior Residency Specialist at Residency Medical. He's an esteemed medical doctor himself. He has been helping many medical residents achieve their residencies and fellowships here in the U.S. He has been working with medical students and graduates. So thank you, Dr. Dhaliwal, for joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila. It's an honor to be here today and looking forward to discuss more about match versus post-match differences and opportunities available.
And our esteemed guest, Dr. Frank Edwards, who has years of experience working with medical students and graduates from all over the world. As a former program director in DIO, he has a wealth of experience and knowledge in this field and is also a mentor to many of our residence medical candidates, alumni and current, and has mentored them through preparation, education. And thank you so much, Dr. Edwards, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Sheila. Thank you, and welcome to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. And as Sheila said, I've had a lot of experience with helping and mentoring FMGs, IMGs through our system, the institution where I worked, and it really became a passion of mine to help people in this situation here. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And I just want to make sure that if anyone has any questions after this webinar, you're more than welcome to go to our website, www.residencemedical.com. We have a live chat there, or you can call our office at 310-444-9700. But I wanted to go ahead and get started and discuss a bit about the difference between match and post-match. So, in my experience with working with medical students and graduates, which I've been doing for the last decade with Residency Medical, I many times come across the issue that many people think that post-match is just soap. So I wanted to clarify the differences between what is the match, what is soap, what is post-match, et cetera, and a bit about the timeline of the year of achieving a residency here in the U.S. So I don't know, Dr. Woods, if you want to share a bit about what your experience has been, but I can also explicate as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Well, as everybody knows, and I'm sure if you're here, you're very aware of the steps here involved. But of course, you submit an application through ARIS and enter the NRMP matching program. NRMP goes back, nearly 20 years. A system that was developed to make the process of hooking up candidates with residency positions as fair as possible. So there's a sophisticated but very reasonable algorithm that matches folks to positions, and the majority of people, of course, will end up matching during the match day. But if you don't, there's 10,000 plus applicants that do not make the match. The NRMP has developed the SOAP, the Supplemental Opportunity System, that is triggered immediately after the match list is generated. And that allows you to, if you have an ARIS application in and either matched or didn't match or partially matched, it allows you to access the list of programs with unmatched slots. And then you can submit up to 45 applications. We then wait after that for a couple of days for the programs to reach out to candidates that they want to interview. And after that process, you then select the programs that are of interest to you. And then there's several rounds of matching on the Thursday after match day. It remains very competitive. There are certain strategies to help increase your chance of matching through SOAP. But if one does not match through SOAP, there then is a post-SOAP process that many people will end up getting matched through that, finding a position. So we look forward to taking your questions. I suspect that many of you are very familiar with the process right now, but we may have some inside insight to help you out.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. So, as you mentioned, the whole process of applying, through the match, especially, for many of our listeners who are IMGs and FMGs, I've seen this year, especially, it's been very difficult for them to even receive any interview invites. So I know as we're coming close to the rank order opening in February, that a lot of people are kind of coming to that realization that interviews may not be coming and maybe thinking about what options do I have at this point for moving forward with this cycle. As you mentioned, there is SOAP, which comes, after the 3-day period after match day, where historically, for what I've seen from our end, that mostly it's U.S. graduates who are getting any type of invites or any calls during SOAP, because it is all phone calls going through, and then the results do come out on Friday. And then the period after SOAP, which is the post-match, which basically goes from March to the end of June, is the period of time where there are still positions and offers made for residency. Although, from my experience, it has been more difficult for candidates on their own to achieve those post-match positions, unless there are certain criteria that they fit that will maximize their chances. So, Dr. Dhaliwal, as a medical doctor and someone who has, gone through this process and has seen many of our applicants go through it as well, what do you think would help an applicant have better chances to increase a post-match?
Definitely. In order to increase chances in the post-match, the candidate has to has updated letter of recommendations, most recent being within 6 months of applying. And they also have to have a research here in the United States, preferably get some publications here. Do step 3 for the persons or candidates, though those are like more than 3 years out of the medical school and they are applying for last couple of years and are not able to get into a residency positions for them. Do step 3, do in training exam. No doubt we are not able to apply with the ITEs during the eras, but it's always helpful to present one if you have with you. And I totally agree with Dr. Edwards that it's really competitive, because after match on 13th of March, there are like 10,000 candidates and a couple of seats. Like last year's data, NRMP data says that after March 13, there were around 475 internal medicine seats left for SOAP. And after SOAP was over, there were only 19 of them left. Or like we are discussing, yes, it's really competitive. It needs a lot of strategy, a lot of planning to apply so that a person can get into a residency program and start with their fellow candidates who applied during that match season.
I agree with you as well there. And, many of the candidates who I have personally helped achieve post-match positions, they did throughout the year work on their applications to basically maximize their chances and strengthen their applications. And they did that by things like studying and taking their step 3. Although step 3 is not a mandatory requirement, and Dr. Rhodes, I'm sure you can chime in on this, I have seen that most program directors do look and appreciate that step 3 is passed from applicants, because once someone is in residency, the schedule is grueling. You're studying for your ITEs. It's just, there's not a lot of time. So having step 3 done is another thing off the list that you don't have to worry about. Definitely what you mentioned about the IT exam, Dr. Dhaliwal, I've seen this work wonders for people, especially those with any low scores or failed attempts. I've seen them use the IT exam as a way to help mitigate that, by being able to showcase that, even though they're not a resident yet, that they took an IT exam and they've scored a certain percentage, and that they are going to be able to continue to improve at that and pass their boards one day, because that is what a lot of programs are concerned with when it comes to applicants. If you have any low score or failed attempt, they are concerned whether or not you're going to be able to pass your boards later on, because they as a program are responsible for you passing your boards, and if you do not, they can be held liable for that. So, Dr. Edwards, in your experience, have you, when reviewing applicants, have you considered things like that?
Yes, indeed. By all means, take the step 3. It's another opportunity to to display your determination and talent. Another thing are letters of recommendation, and everybody should remember that you are able to revise your application through ERAS as time goes on. And if you're in a situation where there's concerns about being matched, especially if you've chosen your initial specialty, a very competitive one, you can recraft your personal statement to make it directed to another alternative that you might choose. And you can also upload new letters of recommendation. Many months will go by since you originally put the application in until the match or the SOAP process comes on. You want to, of course, make sure that your contact information is all up to date. But you have the ability to tinker with the personal statement. Having research, as Dr. Dhaliwal said, in the States is a good thing too.
What I've seen it in my history of working with FMGs is that many applicants tend to think that they can use LORs from back home and that it would be sufficient here when you're applying. And you really want to have letters of recommendation that are from experiences here in the United States that are geared towards the specific specialty that you are applying to. I think this is crucial and critical for your application to obviously make yourself more attractive. And as we all know, going through ARIS, through the match, there are filters set for programs. So many programs have filtered applications based off of things like your year of graduation, your step scores, etc. So many of you, I'm sure, have not received interview invites for that reason particularly. A great way to overcome that issue, in my opinion, is program integration or being known to the program. And the way you're able to do that is through a hands-on externship, by doing research, or a combination of both. And in my experience, I've seen that really work with our candidates who have successfully achieved a residency. So, Dr. Delawell, do you have any thoughts on that?
I totally agree with you, Ms. Sheila, regarding the letter of recommendations. No doubt. Yes, a person may have extensive experience, research in their own home country, but if we have to become a board certified physician in US, practice here as a physician, so we have to make program director believe in us that yes, we are a right fit for you. And how they are able to do that, it's okay by seeing our USMLE transcript, by seeing our letter of recommendations, our scores. So what have been we be doing, and are we currently active or not? So yes, updated letter of recommendations, mostly from US based teaching hospitals. Yes, they help a lot.
I'm going to move to take a question from one of our audience members. So this question is there any cutoff date for interviews? So I'll pass it along to you, Dr. Edwards, and I presume this person's asking through the match.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there a cutoff date for interviews? Yes, will be. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in early December or late November. Suffice to say, before the submission of the rank list. We used to, when I was an emergency medicine program director, we would continue interviews all the way up until within a week or two of the rank list formation.
Absolutely. And rank order list opens as of February 1st this year to everyone listening. So generally, most programs are going to be completing their interviews prior to February 1st, although the deadline for them to submit their list is March 1st. So technically, and I've seen this only from our side, that I have had people interview up until before rank order list deadline, because some programs can basically decide whether or not to submit on the 1st or on February 1st or on March 1st or somewhere in between. It's up to the program, right? So most programs definitely are done interviewing by February 1st. But from my experience, I have had people interview even later than that. But for those of you out there who have applied through ARIS, and if you have not received interview invites by February 1st, it's very, very unlikely for anything to come after. I will take one more question here, and then we'll get back to our topic. Is it a good idea to call programs and tell them we are interested in interviewing at this point, and if they have interview spots open? Dr. Dhaliwal, do you want to answer that question?
From last couple of years, like programs have started mentioning on their website. Like I myself had that experience. So while I was applying, I applied this year, last year, while I was applying, program specifically mentions that we only take application via eras. Do not email us, do not call us, because we also know that it's a lot of thing on the plate right now. The new PGY1 batch is there. They have to keep it going. Like they are new there, they are there to understand the curriculum. They are just started like 1 or 2 months ago. So program also wants that everything has to be through eras. They do not, the program director, coordinator, all the faculties, they are busy with the new people there in their residency program. So in my experience, if a person has a chance through eras, if he or she tries to call them, email them, I believe that the chance is gone. I mean, it's like minimal chance for them to get any interview invite in that way. Yes, you can email them back, you can send them thank you letters, intent letters after your interview. But just to get the interview, it's my advice not to do that, not to call those programs, not to email them outside eras.
And I second that. I think at this point, contacting programs would most likely not lead to anything as a positive outcome. I would say that if there's anyone out there listening, if you have interviewed, that right now is the critical time to send out a letter of intent if you haven't done so. So I recommend that anyone who has any interview make sure to do that before rank order list opens on the 1st, because that is how you can remind programs about yourself, about your interview, and hopefully that'll put you back at the top of their list, and then they'll remember you. But as far as contacting programs, most interview slots are already filled. Once in a while, I have seen that if there is maybe someone who has canceled an interview, that they could fill it with someone else who's already on a wait list. But at this point, if you have not been contacted or put on hold, I don't think that that's going to lead to anything as a positive outcome. And I want to take one more question here because there's a lot coming through. So this question is the in-training exam to be done only in the US, or can it be taken anywhere around the world? I'll go ahead and answer this question. So the in-training exam is normally taken by residents when you're in residency. Residence Medical has created a unique opportunity for our candidates to have an opportunity to be sponsored to take this exam prior to residency. The IT exam has to be done along with current residents, which is done in internal medicine at the end of August or beginning of September of each year through the ACP. Generally, you have to be here in person to do that exam. Because of COVID, there were some opportunities to do things virtually, but I don't have any guarantee that that's going to continue into the following years. But generally, you have to be here in the US to take that exam and to be sponsored through our efforts. But like I mentioned earlier, it is a great opportunity to mitigate any low scores or failed attempts. So thank you for that question. As far as what an applicant can do to make themselves seem more attractive, other than what we discussed about, LORs, research, and being known to the program or integrating, is there anything else that either of you would like to suggest to any of our listeners about how they can make themselves more attractive for a post-match opportunity?
One other suggestion is to know more about the program. Whenever, okay, you want to apply to this program, you have everything ready. So know more about the program, what program actually wants from you. Is this the a recent year of graduation? Like how many years do they have filtered with? Any hands-on experience like we mentioned before. So some programs have like sub-I positions available, so they want their candidates to come to them before the interview season, like for 1 or 2 months, do rotations there, and based upon that rotation, decide whether to deliver them interviews or not. Yeah, so what I believe is to know more about that program will help a candidate achieve like interviews or residency.
And then another question I have is, what circumstances might make a post-match position a better fit for a prospective resident? So I know from my side that there is less bureaucracy during the post-match period, and then Dr. Edwards, I think you can also second that as far as what you've experienced in post-match. That I think that there is more freedom as far as reviewing and possibly interviewing applicants. If correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say. In my experience with with the post-match candidates who would come through, greater urgency to really take a careful look at each one, and also a smaller number. Well, you should be prepared to do an interview, and as Dr. Dhaliwal said, to have some knowledge of each program that you might be asked to interview with in the post-match period.
Something I've seen that's been really critical in previous years during post match is that when an applicant is already known at a program, so if you've already been at that program, working as a research fellow or doing an externship for an extended period of time, when a post match opportunity becomes available, you are someone who they will consider because you have been there, you are known, you've been working to kind of prove your work ethic, show your medical knowledge, and just really stand out as someone who may be a good fit for the program to show that you fit the culture, right? Sometimes I've seen people question, like, how can positions become available during the post match? And there's different ways that happens, right? There can be positions that were not filled during SOAP. There are expansions within programs where they have additional positions that become available because they've expanded. And these are ways that post match positions are available. And then there's always programs that don't even participate in the match, right? So these are different ways that there are post-match opportunities available. Through the years, I've seen many people go through the match and really struggle and kind of come out very frustrated and defeated because they come out with either no interviews or maybe a couple of interviews, and they're left with no residency in hand. And it can be a very difficult position to be in, to kind of try to figure out, where do I go from here, like where do I fit, what can I do. But my advice to everyone listening is to not give up, right? This is your dream, so you will find a way. But in order to achieve something different, you have to make some changes, right? So the things that we talked about earlier about taking your step 3, trying to take an IT exam, making sure that you're getting those LORs from the United States, being known to a program, integrating. These are all things that are going to help you advance in your quest to achieve a residency. I'm going to take some more questions here for everyone, so please do continue to put them into the box because they are helpful for us to discuss together. So the next question I see here is, does rank order list matter for the post-match? Dr. Dhaliwal, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
So, as far as post match is concerned, a rank order list does not have much effect on being able to get a post match positions or not. When the soap ends on March 17th, there are positions left. So, rank order list is, like we all know, that rank order list is finalized on at March 1st, and after that we just wait for 13th of March, that whether we matched or not, and on 17th we come to know that okay, we matched in this specialty, this state, this city. But rank order list, as far as post match is concerned, it does not have much effect on it.
I agree with you there, right? So whatever your rank order list has been when you submit it for the match, that does not play any role in the post match, right? So if you have not matched through the match, nothing from your rank order list is going to carry over. Dr. Dhaliwal, do you want to share any past history of candidates who we've successfully helped in the post match that stands out to you?
We helped, like I was in touch with the candidate, so we helped the candidate. She was from New York, so they came to us last year. So we integrated them, like you said. The best key for successful match into a program is integration, so that you know about the program director, residence chief, resident faculty, know about you, you work there, you have a good rapport with them, a family knit bond with them. So we integrate her into that program. She worked there, and God willing, things worked best for her. And her profile was, the year of graduation was more than 15 years of the medical school, and she had a couple of attempts on all of her steps. Her past experience, she was not actually active in a medical setting, but after integration, she did a lot of research integration. But yes, we were able to get her into a residency position, and she herself was able to get it.
Yes, there are many, many stories I can also recount over the years of candidates that we have successfully helped achieve residency, during SOAP and during the post match. And I even have an applicant from last year who was able to achieve a position as late as August through the post match, right? So, from our side at Residence Medical, we do work year round. That means through the match, through SOAP, through post match, off track, off cycle, and pre match, right? So we are working year round. So when we are working with our candidates, we do exhaust all efforts until we are able to help them achieve a residency. And many of the people listening, I'm sure, maybe just focused or laser focused on just the match, right? But I just want to make sure you guys understand that that is not everything. There are other opportunities that become available or can be available outside of that. And I think we have some more questions that will pop up on the screen. So how successful are older IMGs in match and post match? Dr. Edwards, answer this question. In your experience, have you seen older international medical graduates be successful through the match and through the post match?
Well, certainly older FMG graduates are less likely to fare well during the competition of the actual match itself. But I have a number of stories of folks that I worked with that were successful a decade or more after medical school through them developing a relationship with the program by having a long-term research fellowship, a year-long research fellowship, something like that, where the success rate in that setting was very good in my experience. And two principles to keep in mind: one, never give up, keep following the dream; and two, if at all possible, get into a long-term relationship with at an institution as a research fellow, and that is the best predictor of success.
I couldn't agree more, Dr. Edwards. And I think over the years, I've seen many of our applicants who are older graduates who themselves have tried year after year after year unsuccessfully, end up kind of at our door, and we're able to kind of guide them into a pathway where they are able to spend an extended period of time at a residency program working as either a research fellow or in a sub internship, in an externship, where they're able to really build those relationships that you were talking about with people who are the decision makers, right? Because going through ARS when you are an older graduate, you are filtered out from almost every program, right? Because currently, if you look at kind of what's going on with the trend, programs like HCA, they're not looking at applicants more than 2 years out of medical school. Back, years ago, I remember it was about 5 years was the cutoff for to be considered an older graduate, but now it's 1 to 2 years. So I know there are many applicants who are, they have older graduation dates because, either life has happened, they had a family, or they were working in their country and they came here. Everyone has a story, right? But unfortunately, the way that the system is built, people don't get to know your story because they never see your application. They don't know you, right? So the only way to overcome that is really to be there in person and to prove yourself through your performance. So for any of the old graduates who are listening, that's really the best advice I think we all can give you here, is that you really have to be there in person with a program who's going to be willing to give you a chance to prove yourself. Because there are many instances where I hear stories of candidates who go in and do that same thing, doing research or doing clinical at a program, but it's a very competitive program, it's a university-based program or whatever it may be, and there's really not a chance for them to be considered there. So that's another piece of advice that I want to give to people listening, is that you want to be at a program where they are going to actually consider you. And that is something that Residence Medical offers to our candidates, and that's why you will see such a high success rate with the people that we work with. Okay, are telerotations of any use in case we don't get a visa? So that's a great question. I've since COVID, there's been a lot of people I think who've been struggling to get their visitor visas for the U.S. So I think Dr. Dhaliwal, I'll let you answer that question.
As far as telerotations are concerned or observerships are concerned, yes, they may carry less weightage compared to inpatient rotation, clerkships, externships. But if for some reason person does not has a visa or they are not able to get a rotation here, yes, telerotations to some point may be helpful. But the thing is, like any specialty like internal medicine, family medicine, OBGYN, surgery, they are hospital based, right? They are not clinic based. They are not based on being on a Zoom or virtual rotations. Yes, they will definitely carry less weightage. So if someone has a letter of recommendation from a program director from a teaching hospital versus someone who has a recommendation from some doctors via telerotation or observerships, yes, they both will have their own significance. So in my opinion, yes, if you are applying, if everything is done but somehow you are not able to get your visa, not able to visit US, yes, to get a letter of recommendation you can use one at least, or telerotation, so that you have a letter of recommendation from US. But it will not do as good as compared to a letter of recommendation from a program director in a teaching hospital actually being a part of the team or a curriculum there.
And Dr. Edwards, I'm sure you agree with that as well, correct?
They probably do have some value, but giving one a little edge in the competition, but it's not as good as a personal experience. But by all means, it's not a negative, that's for sure.
Something is better than nothing, right? But in the hierarchy of clinical experience, like Dr. Jalil said, a hands-on insured clinical externship at an ACGM accredited teaching hospital would be, the best case scenario of an experience that you can achieve. Then below that, I believe an observership or shadow experience would be, under that, and then below that would be a telerotation, right? So, but again, if the circumstances are such that you can only do a telerotation, then again, that's definitely better than nothing. So I hope that answered that question. And I think we'll take about one or two more questions here. So should I be preparing myself for post-match even if I had multiple interviews this cycle? My answer would be absolutely yes, because even if you've had several interviews, there is no guarantee that you are going to match, obviously on match day. I hope that you do, but you would want to make sure that you have a tentative backup plan as far as what you're going to be doing moving forward in case you don't match. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have those several interviews, please make sure you send out a letter of intent, because that's going to be very important for your application. Does pre-match, post-match, and off-track start training on July 1st. So off-track positions generally would not necessarily start on July 1st, right? If it's off-track, that means it's not going to start on July 1st. But pre-match and post-match positions generally are going to be starting on July 1st. So is post-match more friendly for IMGs? I'll pass that to you, Dr. Edwards, if that's okay.
That may to some extent be the case. I think that a lot of IMGs find themselves in that post-match situation. So that may be because that there are more IMGs in the pool at that point, and programs that are looking for good candidates are going to be, maybe more carefully looking at the underlying credentials and the applications. So.
And as we're wrapping up this webinar, again, I just wanted to offer some words of advice. And anyone who's struggling, anyone out there who is in a position where you're waiting for the match or you don't know what to do next, but do not give up on your dreams, right? If your dream is to be positioned here in the U.S., you can achieve it. I've seen so many people overcome so many obstacles and red flags who are now current residents, who are chief residents, who are in their fellowships, who are working as attendings. I remember back to when I spoke to them many years ago, and they were in such a position where they were about to give up, right? And I just remember how important it was that they held on to that dream. And when I talk to them now, when I see them now, it's really an amazing thing to see how far they've come and what a difference they're making, in the community, in the world, and in medicine, right? So, we're here to help you, to guide you, to counsel. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here every day in the office. We do free consultations over Zoom. We can talk over the phone, whatever it is that you feel comfortable. We are here for you. And, as we are approaching match day, I know there are going to be many people who will have a joyous day, and there will be many people who will be in a position where they're not very happy with the outcome. But again, we're available, on our website, residencemedical.com, on our live chat. You can call our office. And also, if any of you want to meet us in person, we will be at the IMG event in Miami on March 18th, which is sponsored by Dr. Sebas, who's our good friend. So if you'd like to come talk to us about any post-match opportunities in person, we will be in Miami at that event on March 18th with the IMG event. So I want to, take the time again to thank Dr. Edwards, Dr. Dhaliwal, for your precious time and for sharing all your knowledge with all of our listeners today. It really is a pleasure and honor to work with both of you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila. It was a pleasure being here.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care, be safe, and we hope to speak to you soon.